Hey everybody, this is GGB. Today we're going to be talking about the 7:20 Thursday Night Football Patriots at Falcons. Patriots favored by 6.5 points on Fox. Let's go over the injuries real quick. I'm going to try and go over them as fast as possible, but okay, so this side's the Falcons. I don't know if you can see it. I have 2 full pages of Patriots injuries. They are a very injured football team right now, so let's get through them real quick. At running back, obviously, you have the horrible James White injury that really sucked at the beginning of your season, but also you have the questionable Brandon Bolden has an hip injury. He had a limited practice on Wednesday. He's questionable for this game. So if you don't have him, you have 3 running backs, right? You obviously have Damian Harris, your 2019 third-round pick out of Alabama, who's been really good this year. Then you have Ramondre Stevenson, who has been a great 2021 fourth-round pick out of Oklahoma. He's really stepped it up, although, to be fair, I feel like you could put any running back in New England's system and it would work fine. The real question is J.J. Taylor, the third-year player out of Arizona, right? Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris both do not fit the role that James White did and Brandon Bolden did, right? Both these players are kind of like receiving backs, kind of shifty. That's what James White and Brandon Bolden both bring to this football team. That's what J.J. Taylor would bring. He would be the numbers. He's obviously the next one up in this kind of running back / receiving back kind of role. That would be J.J. Taylor's role. We'll see if he can step up. Obviously, he was their. Obviously, would not. At the beginning of the season, that's not what the Patriots wanted to do, was rely on J.J. Taylor to be their receiving back. But at this point, you kind of have to, and you have to hope that it works out. At tight end, you have Jonnu Smith had to go down with a shoulder injury, limited practice on Wednesday. He's questionable for this game. Also, Dalton Keene has a knee meniscus injury. He's on IR. He's likely out for the year. So you basically have, if Jonnu Smith cannot go tonight, Hunter Henry, your 2016 second-round pick out of Arkansas, and you have Devin Asiasi, a 2020 third-round pick out of UCLA. So it's really interesting here because Jonnu Smith was obviously one of the big additions this offseason. Devin Asiasi obviously needs to step it up this game if he's going to be the number 2 tight end. Obviously, Hunter Henry is probably their best receiving target, so they're going to focus a lot of their energy on Hunter Henry, and that's where Asiasi has kind of got to step up if Jonnu Smith cannot go. Wide receiver N'Keal Harry has a knee injury at a limited practice, questionable for this game. He was the number 4 receiver anyways, but just to go over the receiving core, you have Jacoby Myers, the 4th-year player at NC State, as their number 1 option. You have Nelson Aguilar, the 2015 first-round pick out of USC, as their number 2 option. Kendrick Bourne, their 3rd option, the 6th-year player out of Eastern Washington. And then after that, this is going to be kind of interesting because, let's be honest, N'Keal Harry isn't used a lot. Just period. Just straight up, he isn't used all that much. But the amount he is used, Gunnar Olszewski is the number 5 receiver, so he would step in that role. The 4th-year player at a Benedisi State. Benji State, actually. Not a big school. And then you have the number 6 receiver, which would become the number 5 receiver, is Matthew Slater, 2008 5th-round pick out of UCLA. Do not expect to see him unless we have some serious injuries. So your interesting thing is you have 2 starting offensive linemen for the Patriots that are kind of hurt. You have right guard Shaq Mason has an abdomen injury. He had a limited practice question for this game. Then you have right tackle Trent Brown has a calf injury. He has listed as limited practice, questionable for this game. So if you look at their depth chart, Ted Karras would then take over for right guard Shaq Mason, 2016 6th-round pick out of Illinois. But then you also look at it, Ted Karras is the starting left guard. So the real question is, do you move him to right guard and weaken 2 positions? I don't know. I don't know what they do there. But I bet if Shaq Mason cannot go tonight, we see Mike Onwenu, this 2020 6th-round pick out of Michigan. He was pretty good last year. So we'll see if they use him in that guard role if obviously Shaq Mason can't go. And then if Trent Brown can't go, their backup offensive tackle, I believe, is their starting left tackle, which is weird to have him on the depth chart like that. But if not, if you can't have Trent Brown able to go, you have Justin Herron, the 2020 6th-round pick out of Wake Forest. At defensive end, you have Dietrich Weiss Jr. has an illness. He's questionable for this game. And then Harry Anderson has a pectoral injury. He's likely out for the year, which leaves only, weirdly enough, 1 active defensive end if Dietrich Weiss cannot go. Obviously, you're signing someone off of the practice squad if you can't do that. But the only one on the roster right now is Chase Winovich, the 2019 third-round pick out of Michigan. Defensive tackle, you have Byron Cowart, has an undisclosed injuries on the PUP list. So what we're really looking at here is we have 4 defensive tackles, and let's be honest, Byron Cowart was more of a depth role anyways, but really what we have here is Lawrence Guy, the 2011 7th-round pick out of Arizona State, and the other starting defensive tackle, Stephen Godchow, 2017 5th-round pick out of SU, but I also believe we're going to see a good amount of Christian Barmore, the 2021 2nd-round pick out of Alabama, and then Carl Davis also fits in there, 2015 3rd-round pick out of Iowa. Then you have the linebackers. They have 10 injured linebackers on the roster, guys. I'm not joking. Okay, you have Anthony Jenkins has an undisclosed injury on IR until this week, so we'll see if he can come back. Donta Hightower has an ankle. He had a limited practice, so he's questionable for this game. We might get him back. Jawan Bentley has a ribs injury, limited practice, questionable for this game. Might get Jawan Bentley. Terrace Hall, unfortunately, cannot come back undisclosed, but he's on the PUP list. He has to be out for at least week 12. Harvey Lengi has a knee MCL injury. He was on IR, but he might come back this week, is what he's listed as. Raekwon McMillan's been out for the entire year with an ACL. Kyle Van Noy had a groin injury, limited practice, questionable for this game. So you might get Kyle Van Noy back, which would be huge for this linebacker core. Cameron McGrone had a knee ACL, non-football injury, but it could be coming back for this week. So a lot of these linebackers might come back this week. Some of them are 100% not. These last two, Josh Uche, ankle, he's out until week 15 at the very earliest, and James Collins has an ankle injury as well, at least until week 13. So assuming all these 10 guys cannot go, which I doubt, I believe some of these probably will be healthy enough to go, you have only 5 healthy linebackers on your roster. You have Matthew Judon, the 2016 5th-round pick out of Grand Valley State, obviously one of their better players so far this year. You have Ronnie Perkins backing him up at left outside linebacker, a 2021 3rd-round pick out of Oklahoma. And then you also, so basically left outside linebacker was very, not really left, it was pretty unshaved. And you have Brandon King, 8th-year player, out of Auburn, Anthony Jennings being the only left outside linebacker that was hurt. Middle linebacker was really hit hard, with the only healthy one being the what would normally be 3rd string, but weirdly enough, you're probably stepping up into the starting role is Jelani Tavai, 2019 2nd-round pick out of Hawaii, who was a Lion last year. And then also you only have one healthy right outside linebacker with Calvin Munson, 4th-year player out of South Dakota State, who is normally the 2nd string, not the 1st string. So very interesting there what they're going to do. Kyle Van Noy, if you don't know, normally starts at right outside linebacker. And middle linebacker, you only have Deontay Hightower, and then Jawan Bentley backing him up. So if both of them cannot go, you would be starting Jelani Tavai. And then if Kyle Van Noy can't go, obviously you also have to go with Calvin Munson. At cornerback, you have 2 injuries. Jonathan Jones, not a huge one. He was more buried down the depth chart anyways. Shoulder out for the year. But Jalen Mills was kind of an important part. He was the number 2 corner on this team. His 4 injury. Limited practice, questionable for this game. But you basically have about 4 corners on your roster that is healthy if Jalen Mills cannot go. Obviously, you have the starting corner, J.C. Jackson, 5th-year player out of Maryland. He's been phenomenal. You also have Miles Bryant. So they basically have 2 choices to go as your number 2 corner. You have Miles Bryant, the 3rd-year player out of Washington, and you have JoJuan Williams, 2019 2nd-round pick out of Vandy. So it's going to be interesting who they decide to go with here. It's going to be really fun to watch for sure. And then you have the kind of the sleeper here, is you have the listed as the number 3 on most of them, is you have Shaun Wade. You traded for Shaun Wade at the beginning of the year, 2021 5th-round pick out of Ohio State. He was considered a first-round talent at one point before last year, where he kind of slipped down this sliding. So it's going to be interesting to see if Shaun Wade can finally make an impact on this team with Jalen Mills going down with an injury. And then you have the safety injuries. Kyle Duggar has an ankle injury, limited practice, questionable for the game. And you have Joshua Bledsoe, who has a wrist, non-football injury, out for this game. So if you cannot start Kyle Duggar, starting at strong safety will likely be Adrian Phillips. If you don't know Adrian Phillips, 9th-year player out of Texas, he was huge last year. He's still pretty crucial this year. So obviously you want Kyle Duggar to be able to go, but if not, Adrian Phillips will fill the hole quite nicely. And then backing him up and then stepping into kind of the Adrian Phillips role, probably going to be Justin Bethel, 2012 6th-round pick out of Presbyterian. And then obviously the starting free safeties, Devin McCourty, long-time Patriot, 2010 1st-round pick out of Rutgers, and then Cody Davis backing him up, 10th-year player out of Texas Tech. So a very experienced safety group, even if it's not the most talented without Kyle Duggar on the field. Justin Bethel is the youngest player, and he's still a 6-year player. I mean, he's still 2012, which is about 9 years. So again, yeah, you have 11-year veterans, 9-year veterans, and 10-year veterans. I mean, these are very old, experienced players that know how to play the game. Also, you have your weird kicker injuries, right? Nick Folk has a knee injury, limited practice, questionable for this game. And then normally you would also sign your kicker off a practice squad. He's actually on the roster, though. Quinn Nordin, abdomen injury, IR, until this week. So it'd be weird if both of them can't go, but also you have a weird injury in punter. Jake Bailey has a knee injury, did not practice, which is a worse than a limited practice, obviously. He's questionable for this game. I don't know if he's going to be able to go. Did not practices on Wednesday when you have a game on Thursday is normally not a good sign. Going to the Falcons, injuries not nearly as bad as the Patriots, but you do have some serious ones. Starting off right off the bat, you don't have a serious one. It's quarterback A.J. McCarron, obviously hurt at the beginning of the year. ACL injury, out for the year. So you have, obviously, starting quarterback, which is going to be the starting quarterback anyways, Matt Ryan, 2008 first-round pick out of Boston College. Then you have Josh Rosen, obviously a guy that's bounced around the league quite a bit, 2018 first-round pick out of UCLA. And then you have Felipe Franks, third-string quarterback. Interesting thing there is he's a rookie out of Arkansas, undrafted, but kind of an athlete, so we'll see how he uses him. The big, horrible injury for this game is Cordero Patterson has an ankle injury, limited practice, questionable for this game. And you're talking about an offense that is not very explosive, right? You only really have two explosive players, and that's Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts. If you take out Cordero Patterson, they are just going to focus on Kyle Pitts if you're the Patriots, right? That is all you're going to focus on because no one is terrified of the other options. Obviously, if you cannot go with Cordero Patterson, Mike Davis is going to have to step up that starting running back. But Cordero Patterson brings so much more than running back because he's a running back, but also he used to play wide receiver in the NFL. He's kind of like a fringe player where he could play both positions very nicely. And he is a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. And to be without him is going to really, really be bad for this football team. Mike Davis would obviously step in, 2015 fourth-round pick out of South Carolina. And they got Wayne Gallman as your third-string back. Wayne Gallman, honestly, in my opinion, one of the more underrated backs in this league. 2017 fourth-round pick out of Clemson, but he was really crucial last year for the Giants when Saquon Barkley went down. He stepped up big for them. And then tight ends, you have two hurt tight ends. Hayden Hurst is the big one, obviously, ankle injury out for this game. He was your other threat outside of Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts. And Jaden Graham has a knee injury that's since the beginning of the year, though, on IR. So you have two really tight ends available for this game as long as you don't sign one up from the practice squad, which you probably will. But you have Kyle Pitts, 2021 first-round pick out of Florida. Everyone knows what Kyle Pitts is and how explosive he has the ability to be. And then you have Lee Smith, obviously not the most explosive threat, 2011 fifth-round pick out of Marshall, but Lee Smith is a very good blocking tight end, and he can catch balls. So he's not explosive, but he has a solid, reliable set of hands. He's not horrible, to be sure. Obviously, you are without Calvin Ridley, and no matter how you feel about that, personal injuries, I feel it's great for the guy, but it leaves the Falcons in quite a hole because he was really the player they were betting on after trading away Julio Jones this offseason, and it automatically means Russell Gage, the 2018 sixth-round pick out of LSU, is their number one receiver. I don't have anything against Russell Gage, but he's not a number one receiver in the NFL. He's like a gadget player, number 3 option, number 2 option even, I'm fine with, but Russell Gage is not a number 1 receiver in the NFL. Then you got Tajay Sharp. He's interesting. He definitely has the talent to be number 1 in the NFL, but he has never put it together. 2016 fifth-round pick. 2016, fifth-round pick out of UMass. And then you have Olamide Zacchaeus. I mean, he's productive at the very least. Fourth-year player out of Virginia. Christian Blake's not someone that sees the field all that much, though, to be honest, weirdly enough, in this receiving corps. You would expect to see everyone on the field contributing, but not really Christian Blake, fourth-year player out of Northern Illinois. And then you have number 5, Frank Darby's 2021 sixth-round pick out of Arizona State. Then you have some linebacker injuries, not some huge crucial ones, but you do lose a pretty good depth player in Steven Means, knee injury on IR until at least week 13. You got Darren Bates also as a groin injury is out for this game, which means you don't really lose any starters, but you do lose some good number 2 linebacker options. But you still have your starting Dante Fowler Jr., 2015 first-round pick out of Florida, Deion Jones, 2016 second-round pick out of LSU, Foya Oluokun, 2018 sixth-round pick out of Yale, and Adekunbo Ogundeji, 2021 fifth-round pick out of Notre Dame. All these players are normally starting, and they are going to start for this game. And then you have the depth players of Brandon Copeland, 8th-year player out of Penn, Michael Walker, 2020 fourth-round pick out of Fresno State, and then James Vaughters, 3rd-year player out of Stanford. And then cornerbacks, you have some injuries here. Isaiah Oliver is one that you likely would have liked to have for the year, but he's out with the entire year with a knee injury on IR. And Kendall Sheffield, pretty good player, had hammy injuries out for the year. So basically you have 5 corners, which isn't bad by any means, and you still have one of your some of your top corners. A.J. Terrell still healthy, 2020 first-round pick out of Clemson. Fabian Moreau, a huge free agent signing for them. He's the other starting corner, 2017 third-round pick out of UCLA. Darren Hall is still available, 2021 fourth-round pick out of San Diego State. And you have Avery Williams, 2021, fifth-round pick out of Boise State. Chris Williams in 2020, seventh-round pick out of Minnesota. I mean, they still have some people on the roster, but it's going to be interesting. You have a safety injury in Jalen Hawkins. Ankle, he's limited practice. He's questionable for this game, which leaves you with only 3 other safeties. You have your starting 2, Deron Harmon, 2013 third-round pick out of Rutgers, and Eric Harris, 7th-year player out of Cal, Pennsylvania. And then you have Richie Grant, the rookie, 2021, second-round pick out of UCF. So, I mean, you have some players there. Falcons are one of those teams that has been so far pretty lucky injury-wise. Obviously, Hayden Hurst and Cordero Patterson are big hits for this team, but they're not long-term injuries, which are ones that you would really like to avoid. Calvin Ridley, obviously, stepping down away from football hurt the Falcons quite a bit. But it's quite interesting because both these teams are strongly in the playoff race. You look at the Patriots, and you don't think about it, but the Patriots have suddenly stormed back into the playoff picture. They are right now, if the season ended today, the 6th seed in the NFL, in the AFC. So you obviously have the Patriots who have embedded themselves in the playoff picture, and obviously, if you are a fan of a team that is below the Patriots that you still want to make the playoffs and you haven't given up the seasons like all the Texans, Jaguars, Jets fans, then you would love the Patriots to lose the football game, right? It would be crucial because if you Patriots lose, suddenly the team that's below them, the 7th seed, which I believe is the Chargers, so obviously if a Chargers fan, you want to step up, but also other teams, Bengals, Raiders, I'm trying to think of other ones that are Broncos, even though Broncos I feel like are kind of giving up on their season as we speak. But the Patriots are a team that you would love to see lose if you're a fan of an AFC team that is not doing well right now because the Patriots are so deeply in that playoff picture. And then you have the Falcons. Falcons are sitting at 4-5, a half game behind the 7th seed in the Panthers. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, as a Falcons fan, obviously you haven't had the best season up until this point. But you were, despite not being very good this year, and despite not playing up to your potential, you are still deeply in that playoff picture. I believe if the season ended today, they would be just outside of it, the 8 or 9 seed, I believe. And you have 3 teams that are right there with you. Obviously, the 49ers would love to see you lose. Obviously, the Panthers would love to see you lose. And obviously, the Minnesota Vikings would love to see you lose because the Vikings, the Niners, and the Falcons are all right now 8, 9, and 10. And they're all sitting on the cusp, only half a game behind the Panthers, right? So, Falcons kind of need to win. And despite not having the best year so far, Falcons need to get this victory to stay in the playoff picture. And again, if they won today, the only reason they would be the 8th seed, right? And the only reason they'd be out of the 7th seed is they lost the tiebreaker to the Panthers, which they will get to play again later on in the season. So the Falcons are very much still in the playoff picture. And to be fair, almost everyone in the NFC is still in the playoff picture outside of the Lions, right? The Lions are the only team out of it, but outside of the Lions, you have almost every other single team in the NFC hanging around in this playoff picture, especially the 7th seed. The farthest down outside of the Lions a team is. So basically, the 15 seed in the NFC is only 1.5 games out of that 7 seed. That is how insanely close the NFC is right now. And that basically, if you are a fan of a team in the NFC outside of the Lions, you have a serious shot at making the playoffs. You have hope. If the Falcons need to win this game, the Patriots don't really need to win the game. They're not hugely desperate, but if they want to stay in contention for the AFC East, obviously you do need to win with the way the Bills are playing. I think this is going to be a hard one for the Patriots to win. I don't think the Falcons are phenomenal, but I also don't think they suck, if you know what I mean. And the fact is, if half of these injuries turn out, if half of the people that are questionable cannot play, then the Patriots are in some serious trouble, especially with their linebacker core, the way it is absolutely decimated. You only have 5 healthy linebackers on your roster, which isn't bad normally, but you have 10 hurt ones. So you're leaning on 3rd-string middle linebackers and 2nd-string right outside linebackers to start. So it's going to be really interesting, and you're going to have no depth behind them. And it's just like the Falcons are not dealing with that many significant injuries on the defensive side of things. Most of their starters on the defensive side of things are healthy, or if they've been hurt for a while, like Isaiah Oliver, then they've been able to deal with it, and they've been able to learn from it and get different players starting, and they've been able to play well. So I feel like a lot of these things that I'm a huge fan of, the Patriots, most of those players are not going to be playing in this game. I think Mac Jones has played phenomenally well, but outside of that, and I like Jacoby Myers, but outside of, and I like the running back room, if I'm going to be honest, their defense is absolutely decimated. If all of these injuries turn out, I don't see the defense being able to stop Matt Ryan. I just think you have to take the Falcons in this game. Just period. You straight up have to do it because there is no other alternative in my eyes. But hey, let me know in the comment section below. Everybody, this is GGB Ghostbooker saying, adios amigos.